Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the Guardian of the Blue Paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, will the Flyers have a chance at some top-end all-star talent at the draft? Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steele as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, and hey, I think we got another special guest sitting in here tonight, don't we?
I think so. He looks familiar, though.
Yeah, gosh, man, where, who, the, what, the, who, the, where? I know, it's Pro Joe. Hey, Pro Joe, how you doing, buddy? Friend of the show, Professor Joe Borek, FlyersNittyGritty, beat writer for the Reading Royals. How you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm doing good. It's been fun to start watching the, not for my sleep patterns, but for the fact that I love hockey so much, it's been fun to start watching the Olympics in the women's hockey category since they've started playing. The men will start next week.
Yep.
So I would say my sleep is not the best right now. But in terms of enjoyment of the game of hockey, that's always there. And I love talking about the Flyers, even when our team is in, I'll go to the adjective of despair. Yeah, in despair. So it's still fun to talk about the team and where we might go. And especially, I love, you know how much, even when the Flyers don't have a high draft pick, I like talking about the draft steal. So when the Flyers are going to have a high draft pick, that makes it even more interesting for me. So,
Exactly.
And then if we trade Giroux, which we'll get into. So there's a lot of fun stuff we'll get into in this episode. And I love to be here with Lance, who always writes the extraordinaire, like you said earlier, articles as well.
Well, cool, man. Thank you very much. In this episode number 63.
Already.
Wow. My goodness gracious, man. Time sure flies, right? When you have fun, especially when you work with really good people. In episode number 63, will the Flyers have a chance at some top-end all-star talent at the draft? And Lance, you put out an article this week that talks directly in relation to exactly what we're talking about, some top-end talent available in the draft. This article was just released out on Flyers Nitty Gritty website here just a couple of days ago. And as far as I'm concerned, this article is pretty smoking, and it's another fine example of the writer extraordinaire that this team's going to need some high-end talent indeed. And one name that you point out in this article, and oh my gosh, we might need the Pro Joe to help us on the enunciation of this one here. We're talking about the Russian-born player Ivan Mirish.
I think it's Mirishenko. Yeah,
Mirishenko. Yeah.
That Mirishenko is always how I've said it.
There you go.
And heard others pronounce it that are American.
Right.
All right, so we were close.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that. Ivan.
Ivan
is a beast. Yeah, but cool. Is a beast of a kid at 6'1", 185 pounds, and he's only 17. Talk to me, Lance. Why him?
Yeah, well, of course, it started back getting this article in my mind to write it. Started out with Chuck Fletcher alluding to, obviously in his, talk of the town meeting with Dave Scott, he said the team needs top-end talent, and potentially they could land possibly 2 top-end talent picks in the first round this year, especially if they get rid of Giroux. Yeah. So, and possibly more for that matter. But I picked this gentleman because Ivan is a generational type talent in my mind. I think he's, at the beginning of the season, was slept on a little bit. He had an amazing time with Russia, Team Russia, for the junior championships and all kinds of other stuff, but really came to light then. But he was going to come over here to the United States and play in the USHL, but due to COVID and all the craziness that all entailed, he was prevented from doing so. So he went back to Russia and had to find a team to jump back onto. So really would have liked to see this kid play in the UHS or USHL rather. There's a lot of strong teams there, as we've already talked to a fine young gentleman just a few weeks ago there.
Yeah, for sure.
Connor Kurth, but and with the Chicago Steel there as well. But this kid in particular, I think his stock will rise come draft day, and for good reason. He potentially has all the intangibles, folks. He has an amazing shot. He skates like an absolute bulldog out there, and anybody that gets in his way is like Ovechkin does, another Russian talent, but is going to wind up on their behinds. He's a solid kid, and he's a physical North American type player already, which is rare with a lot of kids his age coming from Russia. The team, the Flyers in general, do not like generally drafting Russian-born players unless they're like Provorov, who came over to the States or North America ahead of time and really played over here, showing that their want to be over here. So, I think this kid is an amazing, amazing talent. Please go look up some of his YouTube videos and stuff like that. I really think this kid could potentially be at least a top 6 talent in the NHL very soon. Just an amazing, amazing player. Playing in the MHL right now, I believe, and the VHL a little bit this season. Playing against men, sort of kind of like the American Hockey League over here, as far as Russia goes, and standing out in games already, as you can see in my latest article, some videos from even this season and last. So
exactly, awesome sauce, man. Yeah, he's already got the NHL frame, 6'1", 185 pounds. He's already 17. Joe, any thoughts on Ivan? You do cover a lot of the lower divisions of the leagues with the AHL. You also cover a lot of the minors and a lot of the draft picks and stuff. And you always like talking about drafts, and you always have your hand in who's going to be coming and who's going to be available and who is the next best talents. What do you think about Ivan?
Number one, as it pertains to the AHL, he'll probably score at least 85 points in his first season if he comes over to play in the American Hockey League. But that's why I agree with Lance when it comes to the premise of once he comes over, that's the only question when it comes to the Russian kids. When are they going to decide to come to North America if they're not like Provorov and over here already? He's most likely going to be a quick, if not an immediate NHL player and not even play at the AHL level. The only way he would do that is if they want him to just adjust to the North American game, so they give him the 15, the 10, the 20, whatever, and then they're like, this dude's too good for the AHL, bring him into the NHL type deal thing. Right. But what I really like about him is sometimes when you see the shot guys drafted, it's more like when we looked at certain scorers, they don't always have, like you said, he has the size, so that checks it, or they're more of the kind of Kessel level scorers where they're not necessarily going to create their own shot that they have, but they have the lethal shot. With Mirichenko, he has the ability to create his own shot on top of having a lethal shot. So that's a perfect combination. That's why I would say he would be one of the people, if I wrote a top 5 list of people I want the Flyers to get, he would be one of the people on it. Especially when it comes to forwards, where there's obviously this is more of a forward driven draft than it is defensive, but there are guys like one that Lance wrote about that we'll get to later, and other defensemen that are good as well. But he, to me, his skating ability and the ability to play a two-way game too, coming over from Russia, is a very good asset to have as well, on top of having a lethal 30-goal at least potential shot there. So
exactly. That's one of the things that I noticed about him too, was that he skated really well. Like it came to him effortlessly. Like he didn't have to think about skating.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
he's one of those guys that doesn't always look like he's skating as well.
Okay.
So like the Tyler Ennis's are the guys that actually have to like they hustle and stuff. They look like they're flying. Where he's
right. This guy just didn't. Yeah.
does it with ease and does it with the stride that
Okay,
it comes so natural to him.
All right. So to have somebody that has that kind of like natural skating ability, and then you couple that with some of his size, and then his coachability, and the fact that he already has a lethal shot, he already has the ability to make his own plays, find his own space.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's doing. He's finding his own space, because at sea. This is the thing about young players, that they find their own space at the beginning, and it's like when we talked to Connor, and he said that you're fighting for minutes, right? So you're doing everything you can to fight for space and fight for minutes. Well, when you get to the big club, you're not necessarily fighting for minutes anymore. Now you're fighting for plays. You're fighting for completed plays. You're fighting for making those correct passes so you can get that give and goes. You can make those power plays. You can do, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I'm getting at here with that. You know what I mean? So that's why I really like him. I really feel that he would be a great selection for the Flyers, especially if they could get another draft pick with, ripping the Band-Aid off and getting rid of Giroux or whatever the case is. So in the next part of the article, Lance, you talk about another great young player that Joe mentioned earlier, a defenseman. And this is another huge need for the Flyers. I don't care what anybody says. They definitely need more people that shoot and score. And they definitely need some defensemen, top level, top four, top talent defensemen for the team, I think. And
especially
in this
right-handers.
Yeah, okay. See, you're taking the words out of my mouth here now, Jeff. Yeah, buddy. Especially right-handers. It's like he knows. And the next name on the list that you mentioned in your article is Seamus Casey, defenseman from the Sunshine State. So
yes, for sure. For sure. So there's a lot of good defensemen in this draft. I think that the Flyers needed that scoring threat first. There's some depth in the first round, especially on the right side, which is unheard of in most drafts. Usually you'll have like one, maybe two really good right-hand shot defensemen. But in this first round, there's numerous ones. One in particular that I like tends to be hurt and has already had a knee injury, which would be around that same time that we would have drafted Ivan. So with this theory and thought that the Flyers get rid of Giroux and let him finally go and rip that Band-Aid off, like you said, this would come in a later round of later time period of the first round. And I think Seamus will still be there, hopefully, for the Flyers. He's a right-hand shot, like you said, from Miami, Florida. All right, the hockey hotbed of Miami, Florida, apparently. But this kid is a natural talent. If he's had YouTube videos since the time he was a teenager at 13, 14, 15 years old, all over YouTube.
Yeah.
He's an amazing talent. Stick handling off the charts, skating ability. He can bring it up, like I said in the article, from behind the crease all the way up and make his own scoring chances. Also pass the puck out of the zone, right on a tape blade, to an awaiting cherry picking, forward for a breakaway. Just an amazing talent. And last season, when playing for the United States Developmental Program, he showed bright spots in there, but he wasn't as strong defensively. When playing in the USHL, he was a -19. Which I equate to him needing to realize that he doesn't have to be that guy anymore, like he was when playing on the Florida teams and stuff like that as a kid. He really had to be it because there was nobody else on his team at his level at that point. Now joining up with this United States team, there's players from all over the country. How deep this team has been in drafts when over the past few years when they're selecting 5, 6, 7, 8 players off this team in the first round or the first 2 rounds alone every year now.
Right.
And, him joining this team and settling into this team, yes, he's been able to score and put up points, but at the same time, he's a plus player now, which was great to see. He's more aware of the guy standing in front of the net that he needs to pick up and lift his stick and try to move him out in front from screening his goalie. And it shows. He's a plus 23 when playing in their random, games against different colleges and different stuff like that. And then when playing against the USHL teams, he's a plus 11 this season. So, a big difference from last season. You see the growth there. And I mean, I think of this player as comparisons, maybe an early Erik Karlsson that can play defense, or a Shane Gostisbehere if you want to think more, Flyers level of thinking, but plays defense as well now. And that's the big
you mean like
difference.
Shane Gostisbehere that plays defense, right?
No. He plays wing most of the nights, I think. So we won't go there. He's no longer a Flyer, thank God. But I can't say enough about this kid either. He's an amazing offensive talent that can quarterback a power play instantly once he reaches the NHL, and can tiptoe across that blue line just like a Brian Leetch did back in the day. Has all the intangibles as well to really kickstart this, not only the power play but the offense in general.
Wow, that's awesome. Joe, talk to me, man. Lay some pro Joe on me here on Seamus from the Sunshine State, man. What do you know about this guy?
Well, it's funny he said Erik Karlsson, because I was going to say, if you just play average defense, when you have that type of offensive skill, people are going to say you play great defense because you have that type of. It just doesn't stand out when you make the little mistakes here and there. Where the other thing with that comparison is, people sometimes get on analysts and people comparing him to Erik Karlsson, but the only reason Erik Karlsson ever digressed was lower body injuries. If he never had those lower body injuries, he would still be. I'm with you. Yeah. Probably because even this season he's starting to gain a little bit of edge back, and you're seeing not the same thing, but a degree of what.
Somewhat.
So like that just shows how good of a player he is. That's why I don't jive with people that say, well, that's not a good comparison because he depleted. He only depleted because of injuries you can't control. So, but Casey, the way that he enters the zone, he seems like we talked about Mirachenko being able to be a fairly quick impact. He's already playing in the USHL. He played, even though it's against kind of these Joe Schmo colleges, he still played in the college level. So I feel like he'll be a fairly quick, he'll get AHL time, but it won't be much. Like he won't need to be down in the AHL for a period of time to develop for like a year and a half or something like that. It might only be even a couple months. And then you're like, okay, well, we really need a ready defenseman. He's kicking the behinds of the AHL right now. Let's give him the shot right now, basically call him up and put him in the realm. Another guy I like around the same time is Salomonsson from Sweden. If we can't get Seamus Casey, if we do trade Claude. Wow. Sometimes I mispronounce his name, but Salomonsson is usually how I go with that. But he has high skating ability and just not as much offensive pizzazz as Seamus Casey, but he can also play a two-way game and does have offensive ability, Salomonsson.
Right. Now, I'm with you on that, on both of those. I do like the capability of having the offense when needed, but I would much rather see defensive players. Lance, what do you think?
Yeah, just touching on what Joe said, there's a reason why I picked these two individuals too, because I think, the Flyers, as I'm kind of trying to make a point in my latest article I'm currently working on just before this taping, was that both these players are going to be impact players sooner rather than later.
Oh yeah.
There's some great players in this draft that are maybe from Finland, Sweden, some of this other countries that are going to need a couple of years to progress to the NHL level. And I don't see that with these two players that I picked out here. If Giroux does go, it's going to be a harsh reality for the organization really quick. In that aspect of just how much he provided, if we can't get somebody back at his level at least. Cam Atkinson isn't going to be able to do it all. We're going to need some of these players to really come in sooner rather than later. And, that's why I picked these two players in particular.
Okay, so let me pose this question here to both of you guys, since both of you guys are writers and both of you guys are very familiar with the young talent and familiar with the guys on all the different levels of hockey. If I'm the GM of the Flyers, and to me, my best discourse is to not get draft picks, but to get prospect-ready players. So what would you guys much rather have? Would you guys much rather have the capability of picking players like Seamus, like Ivan, or would you much rather have knowing the full gambit of all the players in the minors and, whatever, would you be able, or would you much feel more of getting like a player that's ready to play right now prospect for Giroux, or somebody that's, kind of close, or whatever the case is, as long as those lines? I mean, what would you much rather have? Would you much rather have the draft picks, the high-end draft picks, like the first-round draft picks, or would you much rather have the high-end top prospect talent? And I'll start with Joe first. What would you much rather have?
I mean, ideally, you would rather have a guy that would be ready to fly as soon as you make the trade, but that's not the world doesn't revolve around ideals. So
that's true.
I think if you get a good trade, that you get a draft pick, you get a prospect that's like B plus, like something like a guy that is going to be solid at the NHL level from somebody, but he's not going to be the next Giroux. But you also get the first round pick. Like, for example, if you go to, trying to think with if you get a Anaheim, like a Steel, even because they're stacked at forward, I've seen that they're rumored to get rid of Tracy in some trades. They're not going to be the next Giroux, but they'll be good players for your team.
Yeah.
If you get a first round pick, you do that. Because I don't see some things, like there was the one rumor the other day where if Carolina wants Claude Giroux, they might give us Marty Nikas. If Carolina gives us Marty Nikas from Claude Giroux, more power to Carolina, but I don't see that happening. I would
take that all day.
That would be like a dream thing where that's why I think if you get the picks, we have a good I think we've been honestly drafting. I've heard you say it in your shows that I watched Lance as well. We picked a little bit better since Fletcher's honestly come in and used Hextall's methods, but used them to his degree and made it so he actually didn't pick over analytically at times and still pick guys he thought would be up in at least, I think, a 2 to 3 year period at most, and not like a 5-year window type players that Hextall would tend to pick the top, like the potential guys that we
because he's picking guys in the 4th and 5th round,
which is why I think what Lance exactly said is key, where a guy that I would hope if we get a lower pick that might still be there for the Flyers too, if we can't get a defenseman, if say those guys go earlier, will be this one kid with, speaking of Americans, but Rutger McGrody, who sometimes doesn't get enough recognition because he has size, and he's like kind of geeky where people get on him for skating, but his skating really doesn't look like it's that bad. It's more he's a strider than a flyer, so to speak, that he doesn't look like he's flying on the skates, but he's still picking up ground, and that's all I care about in the end. He positions himself well in front of the net. He has some holes in terms of like knowing exactly where to be positionally in every aspect of the game at this point, but that's why he's a later first round pick not it's in the top 10.
Okay.
So
6 foot 205. You got some size. Yeah,
got the size, and we want to add great net front presence. Like the limit, I think Rutger McGrody, if he can pull it all together, is JVR, and that would be what I would say the limit of his net front presence ability would be, because I think he has a better shot also. Because the difference he has that JVR doesn't is he plays a lot more off the boards too, where he'll actually just fire shots off.
Okay.
and he'll just where you don't see JVR do that enough, and that's what I've got on JVR for.
He can't skate to the boards. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
he's got cement blocks on his feet. Yeah,
his entire career, where Rucker McGrody will have the
Get that speed,
JVR in front of the net, but also still fire the wrist shots from the boards and be able to get to that spot. And that's why I think he would be a good later first-round pick to combine with like a Terry or a Tracy. If you say,
right.
I just threw it there since the Ducks are
a
team, they might look at somebody like a center court.
Right. So you would kind of go with a hybrid, where you would be okay with getting a first-round pick and a potential prospect ready.
Prospect. That's not like your go prospect that some people want, but it's still a really good.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm not expecting the fact that the Flyers are going to trade Giroux and get somebody that's on the same level as Giroux. That's just not in the cards. That's not going to happen because there's no way that the Flyers can do that salary.
Giroux and unless if you get Nikas, I guess, if Carolina is that desperate for Giroux, but typically you don't trade Giroux and get somebody that's even to like go to become an immediate Anton Lundell level, like how dominant he is with Florida.
Exactly.
That's like, that would just be fantastic if that does come to fruition. The guy you are.
Hey, we can dream.
Yeah.
So Lance, so now the same question posed to you now, and you've touched on this in your article, where I think you would much rather go with the draft picks. Yes.
It depends. It depends what draft picks we would be getting. But I can see both sides of it. It would be best if we could. I agree with Joe. It would be best if we could grab, a first and a NHL ready prospect or a tier B guy in their system that is already proven himself in maybe the AHL level, but isn't quite there yet. It's always best because prospects are just prospects until they're proven. So ultimately, it would probably be better to, get that guy that's almost there or almost ready and has proven himself a little bit more past, just the Canadian junior leagues or something like that, a little bit higher than that. So, but at the same time, yes, multiple first-round picks is great, but at the same time, the Flyers don't have a great history with drafting in the first round, as we all know. Maybe if we had Tampa Bay's draft history or Florida's or Anaheim's, we would be a lot better off in saying, just give me the picks and, go from there.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Unless it's a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick, Chuck really hasn't been hitting them out of the park too early in the first round, even though he drafted Tyson Forrester, who I liked out of that draft class.
Yeah, we all like him. We've all liked him.
But
I like him. He's just injured. That's all.
I
also like Tumala, who we picked. We didn't even have a first round pick last year. We picked him in the second.
Right.
Exactly.
Got him in second. So, verdict's still out on those guys. We'll see. But, I could take it either way. It's just they would need to draft the right guys in the first to make it happen. If they listen to me or something like that, then, sure. Give me the draft picks. But that's not the case. So.
Right. Okay.
Speaking of draft picks, though, I think one defenseman, because I mentioned Solomonson, who's more of, like you said, the window of 3 years, maybe because he's overseas to come over. Tristan Leno is a guy that, similar to Casey, would not be in that longer window.
Yeah,
he's
I've heard of that
already in
name
North
too.
America.
Yeah, Tristan.
So he's just more of, he doesn't get overhyped because everybody says he does everything good. It's just everybody that gets overhyped is drafted is someone that does something really sexy in one category. Like Casey's so good at pushing the pace offensively. That's what you really hype his talk up about, but he's now got the offensive side, or the defensive side, like you said, where with him, his game isn't the most dynamic, but he's just one of those smooth.
One of the best all-around defensemen in the first round for sure. And he's got size. He's 6'2", 174 pounds, and a right-hand shot. He's a right-hand shot. So, that
in the first round, that's not your next Dougie Hamilton. That's still a perfect pick for your team. That's going to become a cog of your defense, just as he has for the Carolina for years to come.
That sounds.
That's why I think he's a guy that I kind of check myself for Solomonson. I would still like him if you end up drafting him and the others aren't available. but he's a bigger window you have to wait for. Leno would probably be up in a 2-year time period.
Yeah, I think so. I wrote about him a little bit earlier as some guys to keep an eye on this season. And like you said, he just does everything good. You don't notice him in a game, and that's good for defensemen, guys. Every defenseman doesn't need to score 30 goals a year to be that,
as long as he's a plus player.
That sexy prospect, as Joe said. As long as he does his job and takes care of his own zone and moves the puck around a little bit and is able to get it out of the zone and help out a little bit on offense, that's great. He I think has top 4, probably 3rd or 4th defenseman qualities in the NHL level when he gets to that level. But like I said, I just think the team needs something more now because of the state that they're in. If they're talking about rebuilding, retooling, or as Chuck Fletcher and Dave Scott said in their press conference, they don't want to wait around 3, 4, 5 years for guys to turn it around. They want a quick turnaround here. So,
all right, well. Quick turnaround. So to wrap this one up, basically you guys are assuming that the Flyers are not going to be winning too many more games and are probably going to have a relatively decently good chance at a top 5 draft pick maybe, or a top 6.
Maybe top 5, probably definitely top 8.
All right, okay. I'll take top 8. Whoa, what? Are you kidding? And then if I get another one with a Giroux trade, yeah, man, I'm down. Okay, so you guys basically think that's the case. What do you think, Lance? You think that's what's going on?
Yeah, I think that's the most rational, decision playing out. You could hope for more NHL-ready prospects, but people aren't too willing to get rid of those. Giroux will be probably the best available player come the trade deadline. So some teams may be really, willing to up the ante, if you will, for his services, given that he's still very productive for his age. But, in all actuality, it's probably going to be, us getting a first-round pick and something else less significant. So I say take what we can get and try to rebuild or retool as fast as we can.
Okay. So, Joe, you think, too, then, that the Flyers are probably going to be having a pretty good first-round draft pick then?
Yeah, I would say they're going to be in the top 10 somewhere, and that's why the other guy I threw out was Slavkovsky, because he reminds me of an even more skilled I know this guy had the whole thing with the Rangers, but in terms of the player, Vitaly Kravtsov is a more skilled version of Vitaly Kravtsov. Take out the whole thing with the Rangers. So I think when you can have that size, you can have that speed combo. That's somebody I would think of is 7. He has to bring the defense along a little bit more than a Mirishenko, but is he bad on both ends? No, it's just he's not as squeaky clean as one of the guys that's one of the best two-way players in the draft. So that's not a bad thing. He just needs to, Slavkovsky I'm talking about, needs to progress a little bit more on the defensive end and keep doing his absolute thing on the offensive end, because 6'4", 225, that can skate. I'll
pick him.
And also the thing that some people don't know about him, he has played some center. I don't think he will be the best. I think his best position would be wing, but he has played center overseas already. So he does, if you are in a pinch with injuries or something, he has had that experience as well. And we know how much the Flyers are an organization that tends to like the flexibility of their forwards.
Right.
In terms
of
center to wing. Yeah.
They do tend to like that. So, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, Lance, another great article. And I'll tell you what, I have to agree. I really feel that the Flyers are headed towards that particular. Sadly, they're headed towards a pretty good number 1 pick based off of their record currently and or whatever it's going to be at the end of the season. It's not looking good. And whatever they can get for Giroux, I think is going to help to bring along more of those top level all-star type level talent that the Flyers definitely need, because you can't keep sending the same guy over and over. Not that Giroux is a bad guy to send over and over, but I think that's a perfect segue into what I want to get into next. And the All-Star game is coming up, and
it is.
It is, and the All-Star break. This is a time when team have a few days to a week off, maybe can heal up, send a guy or two or three to the All-Star game. Certainly not the Flyers. We only ever get to send one, when we could probably send more, but I mean, due to injury and other things. But Giroux is our representative, of course. Our captain, Claude Giroux, is the lone representative of the Flyers this year. And he was named captain in Ovechkin's absence due to Ovechkin being in the COVID protocol. Yeah. So I'm going to ask, what are your thoughts on the game, Lance, as far as like the skills competition, the format of the game? I mean, what are your thoughts on the All-Star weekend?
So I think the NHL in recent years have tried to make it a little bit more entertaining than the, 20 to 18 goal, games that they recently, previously had. The skill competition is always interesting. Chara's not there. Al McGinnis isn't there, to do the hardest shot anymore.
Yeah.
Ray Borek isn't there to get the, accuracy shot down. But I still think that could be fun to watch in a sense. You always have Connor McDavid there for the fastest skater. There's definitely some younger players this season that have made the All-Star game that haven't previously. A lot of first-timers, maybe second-timers, instead of the same old players reaching it. So it should be a little entertaining. I think the goalies are definitely a lot of newcomers there. Besides, Tampa Bay's, solid net presence that's always there at the All-Star game. But I'm looking forward to actually watching this one and the festivities, especially in the skills competitions this year.
Oh, cool. Well, hey, speaking of the skills competition, you guys got to check out Off the Wall Hockey on Fridays at 8 to 10. We'll be running a special show. We'll be going live during the skills competition, where me and John will have some commentating, and we'll be talking with fans, and it'll just be a great interaction show. So you got to check that out, 8 o'clock on Friday. The 4th of February. That's 8 p.m. Eastern time, from 8 to 10 on Off the Wall Hockey. Check us out. We'll be doing the skills competition game there, and hoopla and everything like that. So check that out. Joe, what do you think about all the All-Star hoopla, the game, the skills competition? What's your take on it?
I always like the skills competition, the game. I usually watch some of it, and then it gets to now it's been more interesting that they've done the different format. But growing up, it's fun to watch when I was younger, because you get to see all the stars score. Then when I got into high school and everything, it's like, okay, these guys are just scoring left and right.
Right.
But the skills competition was always an interesting thing to watch. The hardest shot, watch the accuracy, watch the guys fly around. But I remember the most memorable thing I have recently of the skills competition is when speaking of the Olympics, Kendall Coyne Schofield, who scored a couple goals for USA Today, even surprised Connor McDavid with how quick she went around the ice. And you saw Connor McDavid go, literally do that facial expression.
When she did that, and that first time when they had a woman that skated around, I remember watching that. Yeah.
That was pretty interesting, for sure.
That even impressed the fastest dude easily that's in the game today, that has the level to enter a zone like none other at the flying speed you see McDavid deke through people and enter a freaking zone. So like that's when you know you're doing the things right. And she does that while playing in any league, and especially in international play, you see Kendall Quinn Schofield fly through people and get her wrist shot like she did today, enter in the zone.
Man,
You never know if she's going to fly around you or if she's just going to shoot the damn puck because of the speed. That's what speed players are that have shots. They're so lethal because you never know if they're just going to trick you and fly around you or just take the shot. But to me, it's always interesting. I think they made it more interesting when I know they're going to have that weird like game, like the one shooting thing is going to be like this Vegas type game thing. So that'll be cool to watch this year too. It's going to be like based off of like casino type stuff. Yeah. So that'll be a dimension to too. So I like how they tied it into the setting. So I think that's a bit cool as well. So I do like the competitions a lot. The All-Star games, it depends on how the score tie's going for how much I actually get.
Yeah, what is that going to be, like a hockey Topgolf kind of thing?
No, it's like a 21. It's like a 21. You have 21. To get to 21.
Yeah.
So it's like a blackjack kind of thing, right?
But like shooting it to like
you have to shoot the puck at the cards. Yeah.
That's what I was kind of saying, like a Topgolf almost. You want to hit it over here for to see if you can hit this spot.
I don't know. I get what you're
saying. Yeah.
You're right.
Topgolf has a different target.
Different targets out there that you hit and stuff. Yeah.
So my fondest memories of the All-Star game have been of late the breakaway challenge and the utter silliness of the players and what they have morphed this into, and how this has become more of a family night, bring your kids night. It's all about the kids because every team is represented. So all the mascots are there, and there's a lot of hoopla. I really think of all of the quote unquote all-stars of all the big four, right? We're talking baseball. Now, baseball's pretty close because they have the home run derby and, that kind of thing. But I really like what the NHL does for its all-star weekend, right? When it's All-Star weekend for football, it's just a Pro Bowl. You got, guys on one side, guys on the other.
Football.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
No, but it's a soft game. Guys are barely touching each other. It's usually 45 to 46. You know what I mean? And it's just like when they played the hockey games back in the day when they just had the divisions play against the divisions, or when they had the East against the West, and the scores were like 14 to 16, or something crazy like that. I do like
defense at all, yeah.
Right. Well, and they didn't hit anybody. Sometimes they didn't even play with helmets on. You know what I mean? So yeah, I like the skills competition because it really showcases what these players are capable of doing. And it really is amazing that you watch these young guys and even older guys that have done this their whole life and how good they are at stick handling and skating and hardest shot and accuracy and the crazy things that they're able to do with the puck and the stick and, everything like that. So I've always liked the skills competition, and the game, not so much.
I like the young guns too, though. The young guns being added in there and stuff like that.
Okay, so that's been good. See, I'm not a fan of 3-on-3. I would much rather see 5-on-5 real hockey.
Me too.
I mean, I'm not saying that 3-on-3 isn't fun and entertaining and everything like that, but it's guys are just kind of, lackadaisically skating around, and they're just waiting till somebody gets set up so they can make the perfect pass and play, so they get the goalie moving. That's really all the 3-on-3 is. You know what I mean? Let's face it. I don't know. I mean, so, all right, Joe, do you think that this All-Star game, Giroux making this All-Star game, has risen his stock as far as his tradability now because he has produced at this level?
I think the season he has by the numbers speaks for itself and has risen his stock. I don't necessarily think with the way they do the voting for these things and everything with these sports, making an all-star game really raises your stock, because I don't necessarily think with the way they do the voting. Like, I'm very happy he got in.
No, yeah, I know, I'm with you. Yeah,
same
I'm with you.
degree
Yeah.
of level that it was back in the day. So, like, you tend to have a lot of biases. One guy does have to get in. I'm not even sure, honestly, if Claude would have got in, if a Flyers guy would have got in at all, if they didn't have the one guy has to get in just because of how bad the team's doing. But he deserved it by his numbers. So I think the numbers more speak for itself. Him being a almost points per gamer still at this age, and being the guy that says, look, even though we suck, I still want you guys to at least compete each night. Like, I remember, this is switching sports, but like with football, the year Peyton Manning got injured, Jeff Saturday, the guy that played the O-line, of course, of Peyton Manning for
His
years.
Center,
yeah, said that even though he was injured, even though we only won 2 games, it was like 2 or 3 games they won that season without him. They said, we're going to at least look like we give a crap every week and come out and like play a competitive game, where you see that out of Drew, you saw that out of Atkinson, but until recently, when the Flyers got it back after the holiday break, when they were looking a little bit better beforehand, they completely lost that. So the way he's kept that all season through it all, that is what, to me, is going to keep his trade value, because it shows a new team, even if they go through a little bugaboo, Claude Giroux's never going to be the guy that's
going to be the reason
at all. He's going to be the guy that's the reason why everybody else tries to ascend, because he's going to say, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
I'm doing my thing. I need you guys to at least show some better compete level right now.
Right. And Lance, I pretty much know where you're coming from. We pretty much feel that the Band-Aid needs to be ripped off and he needs to be sent packing.
For sure. I mean, I think obviously making the All-Star game festivities, it doesn't hurt his trade stock at all. It can only help.
Right. But, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, but I mean, like Joe said, I mean, come on. Kadri from Colorado has 60 points on the season, and he didn't initially get into the All-Star game.
Yeah,
he
right.
had to be waited. He had to wait until the fans voted him in. Like, he's one of the top 3 to 4 players in the league right now as far as points go, and he was passed up so that other people could go in. It seemed a little ridiculous in my mind, to have some different people in there. But like I said, this season, Giroux has been able to keep it up and keep it going. And like Joe said, Atkinson has done that as well. Farabee, I believe, has shown, with his outburst at times when they're losing, multiple nights in a row. He's showed that frustration as well, that will to win. And same as Carter Hart. These guys, some of these guys want to win, but some of the guys on the franchise just seem to settle into mediocrity since they've been here for some time now, and it's leaves a bad taste in your mouth for sure. So if we can move on from Giroux, I definitely want to see the Flyers move on from Giroux, and work towards something different for the franchise for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that for sure. And I think we've all kind of come to that conclusion that in some way, shape, form, that is going to probably go away for the Flyers as far as we're all concerned, as far as, you know what I'm saying, that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, and even at the community talk that the organization had the other day, they mentioned about how it's in Giroux's hands. Well, of course it is. He has to be the one to decide whether or not to waive his no trade clause, and if he does, then guess what? He's going to be gone. See ya.
Like I said, there's rumblings that I've heard when at games. There's rumblings that him and his agent already have a list of 5 teams out there. I can either confirm or deny that, but there's just a lot of rumblings And a lot of, speculation on, just where Danny Briere is going to fall in line as well, with this organization moving forward. His face is in and around, both Voorhees and the Wachovia Center a whole lot, as I alluded to just a couple of games ago when I've seen him in the press box, area with Chuck Fletcher and Brent Flair. So that should be interesting to play out as well.
Let me just give you guys a quick little glimpse into Mr. Claude Giroux. 42 games played, 15 goals. 20 assists, 35 points. He's a -6. Now,
which that has to go a lot with the way the team's playing, not necessarily Claude Giroux, that plus minus there.
He is 82nd in the league in points, and he's tied with doggies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14 people all have 20 points.
35 points.
35, yeah.
I'm sorry, 35 points, sorry. Okay, so, I mean, it's crazy, right? It's crazy that he's making the All-Star, even though we feel that this is being productive. He's got 15 goals and 20 assists for 35 points. You know what I'm saying?
I would almost like to see Cam go. Instead, I think he's had one heck of a year for the Flyers.
He's on pace for over 30 goals, so that's been a minute since. Who's the last guy that scored us 30 goals? Because TK had 3 straight 24-goal seasons. I don't even know. I can't.
Oh my gosh.
You might have to go back to
Carter?
Jeff Carter. Yeah,
Jeff Carter.
Yeah, might be
Jeff Carter was.
Carter did it a couple times.
Yeah.
Danny Briere did it, didn't he? Once or twice, and
did he do that after Jeff Carter was off?
I think, maybe, yeah. Okay, well there you go then. I mean, okay, so either way, it's like that you guys do like the All-Star game, and you do like different bits and pieces.
I really like the festivities. Yeah, I like all the stuff they do and the skills. Yeah. The game is a giver. Take at times.
So let's talk about some players. Just out of curiosity, who do you guys really like? Because I really like the fact that, just running through the different divisions here, I really like the fact that Pelech from the Islanders made it. I think he's super underrated as a defenseman. I love that Kyle Connor made it from the Jets. I think he is amazing talent. And he's put up some huge numbers with the Jets, and he's, I think, a first ballot or first time All-Star here. And I think Kadri making it was awesome. He's a first timer. Again with that 60 points, that's going to be an exciting unrestricted free agent as well.
Yeah.
Of course, you got Draisaitl and McDavid with the Pacific. Johnny Hockey, he's been there a few times, but this season it should be a great unrestricted free agent to look at as well. He's a +30 this year, guys, with 54 points already this season. So I think there's some definite people that I'm gonna want to watch in this game, just because they haven't been there before.
Yeah.
Kirill Kiprusoff as well, from Minnesota. He's a first timer too. So a lot of younger guys coming in there. Exactly. Who do you guys like out of this bunch?
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, for me, a guy that I like to start with the goalies instead of with position is a guy that obviously dominated the bubble, which is Thatcher Demko for Vancouver. Because for me, when everything was here before Bruce Almighty came in and is helping to recover that team there, he was still doing well himself, where to me the makings of a guy that's going to be a calm, cool, collected, very good goalie in this league is is like that meme that you see of that dog sitting in a room that's burning down, and he's just like, "This is fine. This is absolutely
everything's
fine.
cool, but everything else is burning down
Everything's
around
cool
him.
here." And they're still playing well. Where he's done that this season, and not just this season, in the mediocrity of I haven't liked the moves that organization's made in the last few years to help set up not just Demko but the Pedersens of the world with the best team overall, and not just offensive-oriented team. But I think he deserves to be there. He's a guy I'm really happy for. A guy that would have been exactly like Kadri just because of how going off he is this year, how much he's going off as if Terry didn't make it. So
Yeah.
I'm happy they actually did recognize how good Troy Terry was doing for the Anaheim Ducks, because that would have been a catastrophe if he didn't make it. And in the same premise, I'm really happy they recognize how great Jordan Kyrou is doing for the Blues, because that would have been an absolute travesty if somebody like him that was so highly regarded, where he goes in completely to the adage we say you got to be more patient with some guys and let them just take a couple years to develop and then they can pounce. That's exactly what Kyrou's doing at 23 and is now above a points per game guy by a couple of points this year. So he obviously very greatly deserves that honor. And then back to goaltending for my last one here would be, I really like how Campbell, who obviously ever since going to Toronto has been able to really solidify his and make
flourish,
a big himself has been able to flourish there. I like how he was able to get the All-Star nod as a goaltender. One guy I will shout out just because I didn't like how Edmonton messed up his career overplaying him years ago. He's recovered it now in Minnesota. There's probably other goalies that could have made the All-Star game over him, but still, congratulations to Cam Talbot for making the All-Star game.
Yeah, right. I'm with you on that. So my take is this. There are 22 first-time guys this year. That's the most ever by an all-star group of guys. It's the first time ever. I'm not necessarily. I've been kind of following a lot of different teams this year just because the Flyers haven't been that good. I'm with you on the goalie situation there, Joe. I really like that. But one of the players I'm interested to see is Jonathan Huberdeau from the Florida Panthers. I'm going to be interested to see how he does with this as well. I'm also going to say this. I think I would much rather have the snubbed team, the group of guys that were snubbed, and take those guys and play against the winners of whoever wins between all these games. Because quite frankly, me and John talked about this in the last couple of weeks on our show Off the Wall Hockey. We talked about taking the group of guys that were snubbed and having them play the guys that win. So that's kind of what I would like to see.
Who's your biggest snub?
Oh gosh, man. Well, it has a lot to do with the guys from Colorado. Now, Kadri did make it in. Nazem Kadri did make it in. But McKinnon's not going to be there, but I think it's because of injury or something else or whatever. But there were some guys that were on Colorado that probably could have made it. There were guys that were on Florida that probably could have made it. There were guys that were on Tampa Bay that could have made it. There were guys that were on Pittsburgh that could have made it. I mean, you get what? There's more guys on the Rangers and Washington and other teams out there that could have made it, but because of the way the All-Star thing is set up, they have to have a guy from each team. Yeah. I'm glad to see that Pelech made it. That was really cool. Chris Kreider finally making it for the New York Rangers.
How many amazing seasons has he had?
That's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Also made it, who once had a 40-goal season. You could have argued he should have made it that season.
He's got 26 so far this season.
Yeah, and he's killing it this season. But he probably could have made it in the past too. Like that's why I say that's why I said earlier the All-Star game doesn't affect trade value for me, because the voting's so circumstantial.
I think Andrew, my guy Andrew Magnapani from Calgary, He has 20 goals on the season, and he's kind of slowed down a little bit. That's a snub in my mind. That should have been there, because he was carrying Calgary early on when they didn't really have it all together quite yet.
Exactly.
So
yeah, no, I'm with you. All right. So we talked about some top level talent, and we talked about the All-Stars and things of that nature. So this is the last thing here that I want to get into here with you guys. And I just want to ask you guys the last question. Okay. And I'll start with you, Joe. The state of the Flyers right now. Now we're in an all-star break where the Flyers don't play again until after what? The 8th, I believe it is.
It might be exactly the 8th.
The 8th, right. They play on the 8th, I believe, which is next.
No, 9th. Wednesday 9th.
Yeah, I'll be at that game.
Oh, you'll be at the Wednesday game? All right, cool.
You play back-to-back Detroit games, and then
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't play again until the 9th, and the last game they played was on the 1st, right? Yeah. So the state now, during this time now, the Flyers have won 2 games in a row, and also in that interim time, they've had a press conference with Dave Scott and Chuck Fletcher. So, Joe, give me your state of the team right now during the All-Star break.
Well, what I also took away from that press conference is I think Chuck Fletcher thinks there's a different state of the team than Dave Scott does. So that'll be interesting to see as time develops over time. Maybe that's why Danny Briere is around more. Maybe he'll become somebody that'll just listen to Dave Scott. But we'll have to see as time goes on there. But I think Fletcher, with the statements he said, he talked about how we need to bring in more top-end talent, whether that's via the draft, like Lance and all three of us talked about, this podcast, which is via the drafting great people that have a chance to develop, like Casey Solomonson and others, or like Slavkovsky, others, or if it's getting top prospects or getting somebody because a team's desperate and throws you a better prospect than you would expect because they just really want Claude Giroux to win now, then that still helps you with the future. I don't want Dave Scott to hold back things that Fletcher might do to actually help the future because he goes, well, I want to stay in the weird competitive line so we can keep making the bottom line we want to make, because where it's not the same thing where with Schneider, he wanted to keep staying competitive because of the accountability and he wanted to get to a cup and do it for the fans. For Scott, it's I want to make my money, and Comcast, I want to make them. So it's a different.
He's definitely not right now the way that stadium looks.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's why if I'm Dave Scott, I don't know what he was talking about. I would listen to more the degree of conversation of where Chuck Fletcher was steering it. Let him bring in these other big name guys, and in turn, in domino effect, that's only going to help you. Because you're going to make more money. People are going to be in the seats. If you bring in
jerseys,
yeah, say a Tracy becomes a great net front presence, scores 25 goals in the season, and then you add that first round pick in Slavkovsky and you get a Casey, you now have 3 players that might become part of your next core, and maybe one of them is never going to equal a Giroux, any of them, but they're going to be 3 very good guys that are part of your next core. So that's how you build going forward. That's where I think the state is. It's in you got to build going forward, and if Dave Scott holds back, that's just going to make this team be stuck in mediocrity like the Buffalo Sabres have been. And that's going to be an unfortunate thing if the ownership allows the team to be stuck in mediocrity like the Pagulas have typically allowed the Sabres to be stuck in because they're so focused on the Bills. Dave Scott and Comcast don't even have another thing to focus on. For Dave Scott, he doesn't. Comcast does, but Scott doesn't. They appointed him for the Flyers.
Yeah, for the Flyers.
He should be focusing on that and making it the best it can be, not just for the fans, but also for himself. Because if he wants to do and make his bosses happy, like Lance said, you can't have the team be the way it's going now with the fan base not sure. This is the first time in my lifetime I've ever seen the fan base go, screw you, we're pulling out now. Even in down seasons, I think it was 2007 was the year we sucked, and Tiernan Mackey played through like a busted ankle.
Yeah,
like you can those seasons you still saw fans come out because they knew there was commitment from the top down. You don't have that anymore.
You don't have that, but I think the vaccine mandate also hurt everybody too. But
we see if our team was a cup contender, you would still have people coming out and going
for sure.
That's more what I'm saying. Where
I'm with you.
I think we're in a state of you need to grow this team outward and let Chuck Fletcher do more of what he talked about in the press conference, which is bring in more high-end talent, allow trades to happen that allow you to get picked. Even if it's a high second-round pick for someone like JVR, if you can draft another Tumala with his potential with a high second-round pick for someone like JVR that has the skating and has the kind of Cam Atkinson looks to him, that's a better player for today's NHL that I would want compared to JVR, who, like Lance said, at this point of his career has bricks on his skate. So, like, that also would be helpful.
Right.
That's why I say don't hold back anybody, Dave Scott. I appreciate that you actually came to the press conference, but don't start getting overly involved in hockey operations because you don't know anything. Let the people that know things allow the team to get good and build, like Fletcher said, with the right guys, so you impress your bosses also.
Wow, Lance, your state of the team here. I'll tell you what, I think Joe made some really great points. I have a few of my own, but I want to hear what you have to say, Lance. What is your state of the team here? What do you feel now that we're in the All-Star break? We got a little bit of time. We'll potentially get some players back from the injured reserve and things of that nature. So, I mean, what do you think the state of the team is right now?
I think it's obviously, like Joe said, it's not really good. I think we need to build upon that. But at the same time, as I wrote in one of my previous articles, Chuck Fletcher helped create this problem. Although he did bring in some great pieces like Cam Atkinson and stuff like that, he also brought us right back in the salary cap hell with, certain guys like Ryan Ellis who can't stay healthy and signing Kevin Hayes to such a big deal. It really hurts us moving forward. So is he the guy? Obviously Dave Scott seems to think so, but is that a farce in my mind? Like Joe alluded to, and I alluded to previously, Danny Briere's around there a lot right now, and they've been, really building him up and spoon feeding him how to be a GM and
does a great job with the Mariners and the ECHL.
Right, and forced him to, hey, you should go back to college and take, finance courses and negotiation courses and all this stuff, and gave him a job with the Mariners. So, a lot of questions still in my mind with the team. Would I like to see the team get rid of Giroux, move some other pieces, like JVR? Yes. How they go about that, I say tread lightly and think twice before you make an action out of haste, because if you get another Ryan Ellis type deal in here that's going to bring back yet another person that's injury prone, the Flyers don't simply need that, and they need every bit of cap space that they can, because, like I said, Farabee's on a new deal starting next season. Coots is on a new deal starting next season, and that's going to eat up a lot of money that Giroux's contract was. And it's there's a lot of pieces still need to be moved. Do I think Chuck did okay? Yes. But he set this team up for AV and for AV's system to work. So he's going to need to totally rehaul this team, and it's going to depend on who he selects as a new head coach too, if he's sticking around. So, who he's going to bring in to fit that system. So just a lot of open-ended questions in my mind with this franchise, and it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out for sure.
Well, you mentioned the head coach, just real quick on that. If we don't bring in someone that is similar to Noblat, like you brought up, Lance, I think we do need to get a great defensive type coach that knows what he's doing. Like Stothers is with Anaheim, so he's not going to leave there, but he's a very good defensive minded coach, or someone along that effect that is really in tune with defense like him, and then have a great offensive mind. Because when I look at the way now that Ian LaPerriere, I think, is adjusted to learn how to coach and not just mentor, you see the Phantoms pushing the offense a lot more, which is why they've improved exponentially since the start of the season. Where these players, I think, like being put in situations to be able to succeed with the skating ability and skills they have with the Flyers. I've said it before, turn people into things they're not too much and hold them back sometimes with the positions they put guys in.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like now they're starting to open it back up more where if they don't get overly involved and start overthinking everything again and just let guys kind of do their thing. I think that in turn, if you get a coach that allows that to happen too, like a Nobla, that in turn will help this team to continue to get better, because Ratcliffe hasn't looked better than this year, and his big issue's been health, but he's never looked better than this season. And I think a big part of that is Ian LaPerriere just said, stop overthinking things. Forget everything Scott said before about you becoming this great two-way juggernaut that can hit. Just become the guy you were in juniors growing up and be the offensive guy and the defensive guy you were then, and use your body the way you always did. You don't need to do anything extra, and now this is the best season he's ever been able to put forward. So I think allowing guys to be themselves, there's a lot more to that than people put to it. That's a big way in development too. You can't get overly involved and shove stuff down guys' throats. Like I think the Flyers are a team that sometimes it seems have fallen into that category.
I think they have big time. My final take on the state of the Flyers. I do not feel that Chuck Fletcher should be left in charge. And I do believe that the team should make the replacement sooner rather than later, meaning now, and allow the team, while they have some time off, to bring in the new regime and allow them to learn about the players while they have the rest of the season to do so. I do not want to see Chuck Fletcher dealing with another trade deadline for the Flyers, and I do not want to see Chuck Fletcher be in charge of another offseason for this team. I really feel that he has done more damage than good. He has set this team up, just like Lance said, back into cap purgatory again, to where we've overextended ourselves to the point now where the Flyers have no money to do nothing.
But my one thing to that would be is that Dave Scott, because when we heard Dave Scott talk at the press conference, he was all about everybody has to keep this. Like, I think we'll be fine next year. Like, and I don't think many people think all of a sudden everything's going to be roses and gumdrops next. So, like, with that for Dave Scott go and do everything AV tells you to do, and then that I can't really throw 100% blame on Chuck Fletcher for just appeasing his boss.
I'm not really blaming per se, but what I'm saying is I don't feel that he should be the guy moving forward.
I got you.
Okay. I just don't think that. I think that the missteps that he's made in the past are more than enough reason to not allow him to continue on, because I think he's just going to bring this team further and further down and not be able to bring them where they need to be. And I saw a really awesome article by, I can't even remember who it was, and it was just like an open letter to Dave Scott. And this is an opportunity for the management, the ownership of the Flyers, to do the right thing. To do the right thing by the team and by the fan base, okay, and by Ed Snyder and by the ownership. Look, it's gonna suck for the first couple years. That's just how it's gonna have to be. You're just gonna have to stink for. All you had to do is look at what the Penguins did. What? They stunk for a couple years, and then they put 3 cups on the shelf. Okay, come on. I'm not saying that you do it on purpose. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is that you've made the decisions that you've made in the past are now affecting what's going on right now. And some of those decisions that you made in the past were not very good. So now you're kind of living with these issues right now with the team.
We also have to remember, though, a lot of the decisions that come to the effect of not having the Pounce, Troy Terrys of the world come up for our team also was much on Hextall for not drafting the Connor Garlands or the Troy Terry.
Either way,
so that goes into
I'm with you
as well. Where Fletcher's only had a couple drafts under his belt that we can't really judge that much yet.
I agree, like I said, I'm not saying that Chuck didn't do some good things, because I think every person that's been the general manager of the team has done some good things. But excuse me, I just really think that this team needs to start from scratch and start over, and that's just kind of where I'm at on that. So. Joe, tell the folks where we can read all your great stuff, because you are the beat writer for the Reading Royals, and you're also one of the great writers for FlyersNittyGritty.com. So tell us where we can reach you, where we can find you, where we can get all your great articles, my man.
Well, articles primarily is Flyers Nitty Gritty. That's where you can get all the different stuff. Videos and podcasts is Sports Fanatic News over on my YouTube, and then with the great Steel that you see right here, Steel Flyers on the Steel Flyers channel, when we do our weekly show, where we'll be doing it next week, checking in before Super Bowl and everything. Nobody wants to talk about the Pro Bowl, and then we'll be checking in with hockey coming back after the All-Star break. So that'll be fun. Man. And then if you want to message me, the best place to reach to talk about hockey is JJ Borek 26 over on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Joe. Man, listen, man, the Hockey Writers Inc. salute for you being on the show again, man. Really appreciate you being here. We really love having you on here. Great friend of the show. Also part of the JB and Steel show. So thank you very much, Joe, for being here. Lance, my brother, man, we put another good one together. What do you think?
Another one in the can for sure.
Another one in the can, buddy. You did already allude to a new one coming out here, hopefully in the next 24 hours, maybe.
Sometime over the weekend for sure. I'm really going to sit down.
Right.
I have a couple of different articles in mind. I really just got to tuck away and lock the door and, be able to sit down and type away for sure. Yeah, I've been researching a lot and everything like that. So just need the time in which to do it. Yeah.
Super. So tell the folks where we can get all of your great articles, where we can read all of your great stuff, the beat writer for the Philadelphia Flyers from FlyersNittyGritty.com, and where we can find you.
Sure. As always, all my articles are on FlyersNittyGritty.com. You can catch them on the show links here with, SteelFlyers.com with the Hockey Writers Inc. And you can catch me on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the numbers 39. I'll be at the game the 9th to catch them coming back. If you are one of the few thousand people that actually are going to the game still for the Flyers, I'll be there. So it should be easier to spot me. So
probably more for parking than it is for your ticket at this point.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
The food. I mean, I like the pizza. It's pretty good.
It's good. It's good food. So very much thank you. Exactly. Big thanks to the FlyersNittyGritty.com for all your support. Appreciate all that you do for the show here at Hockey Writers Inc. Once again, you can find us out on the web at www.steelflyers.com/links/Hockey Writers Inc. We're also out on the YouTube channel. You can go to SteelFlyers.com YouTube channel and look for the Hockey Writers Inc. playlist there. You can check us out there. You can also check us out on all of your podcasting platforms. We are on Google, Spotify, Anchor, iHeartRadio, Apple, you name it, we're there. You can check us out, get all of our great shows on all of your great podcasting platforms. Check us out. We're all there. You can find me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. Thanks everybody for watching. This is the Hockey Writers Inc. and we will see you all the next time.